They say the best camera is the camera that you have with you at the exact moment that you need it the most. And for the majority of us, that's going to be the camera on the back of our iPhone. And there is no doubt that the camera in your iPhone can take some really exceptional photos, even if you don't really know what you're doing with it when it comes to taking photos. But with that being said, there are definitely some tips and tricks that you can apply to take the best, most creative photos possible. Now, this video isn't going to be a photography crash course. I'm going to focus instead on hidden features and settings that you might not know about on your iPhone that will open up a world of photographic opportunities for you. All right, let's get into it. Let's talk about panoramic photography, or panos as Apple calls them on the iPhone. A panoramic photo is where you take a picture that sweeps from one side of a scene to the other, and most people use this to capture wide scenic views when they're away on holiday. You probably already know how to take one. You open the camera app, swipe over to Pano on the far right, then position yourself at the left side of whatever you want to capture. Tap the shutter button and try to keep the phone as steady as you can while you pan from left to right. Once you've captured the whole scene, tap the shutter button again and your iPhone will stitch everything together into one long image. There are a couple of tips that you might not know. The first is that you can flip the direction of the arrow. Just tap it and you can change from left to right to left, which is useful if you find one side easier to start from. The second tip is simple, but makes a big difference. Try holding your phone horizontally instead of vertically. This works really well for extremely tall buildings or waterfalls because it lets you capture far more height than you'd normally be able to, even with an ultra-wide lens. Oh, very quickly, if you watch videos like this and think, well, that's great, but I'll definitely forget it later, I've made something to fix that. I send one short, free iPhone tip every day direct to your inbox. It's called the Daily Swipe. It takes 30 seconds to read, and it genuinely helps you remember and actually use tips like the ones in this video. Just scan the QR code on screen or tap the link in the description to join for free. You've probably seen a long exposure photo before, even if you don't know what it was called. They're the photos where waves crash against rocks and the water turns into a silky smooth blur, or the ones taken from bridges at night where the headlights and rear lights of cars blend into streaks of color. On a professional camera, you'd normally need a specific setting and a tripod to pull this off. On the iPhone, it's actually really easy and you don't need any extra gear. Here's how to do it. Open the camera app and make sure that you're in photo mode. Swipe up to open the menu and switch live on. You'll see the live icon turn yellow, which confirms it's enabled. Swipe down to close the menu, then hold your phone as steady as you can and take your photo. You'll need to keep still for a couple of seconds because your iPhone is basically capturing a short video, which is what a live photo actually is. Next, open the Photos app and find the live photo that you've just taken. In the top left corner, you'll see a drop down that says live. Tap it and change it to long exposure. The effect will be applied straight away. This works brilliantly for water and city lights, but you can use it for all sorts of creative shots. I've even used it to get fun photos of my kids when they've been playing with lights in the dark. It's a great little tool that's built into your iPhone, and it is definitely worth having a play with. This next tip is one of my personal favorites. Take advantage of the unique positioning of the lens on your iPhone to be more creative with the photos that you take. On a DSLR or even a point and shoot camera, the lens usually sits in a way that encourages you to lift the camera to eye level. Unless you move yourself into an interesting angle, the photos that you get can look a bit flat and predictable. With the iPhone, you can position the camera in all sorts of creative ways with hardly any effort. You can press it right up against a wall or flip it upside down and hold the lens as close to the ground as you can, then tilt it up slightly as you take the shot. This looks really good if you do it over a puddle or next to a reflective window. There are loads of creative angles that you can try thanks to where the lenses sit on the iPhone, so have a play with it and see what you can come up with. I'm really passionate about helping people get the most out of their iPhones, and one of the best ways to do that is to keep your phone safe. With that in mind, I would definitely recommend taking a look at the latest cases from Benks, who are kindly sponsoring today's video. Benks uses genuine DuPont Kevlar in their cases, the same material that you'd find in aerospace components, high-performance sporting gear, and protective equipment. And so it's really amazing to see that same material here. I was really surprised at just how strong these cases are, while being some of the lightest that I've used. I've been using the Armor series on my own iPhone recently because I'm all about keeping my phone protected without adding too much bulk. I'm in and out of the studio filming B-roll, running around after my kids, and constantly picking my phone up and putting it down again. Having a case that feels light, grippy, and properly protective just makes me a lot less nervous about drops. If your priority is keeping things as slim and lightweight as possible, the Armor Air series is a great option. I was amazed at how light this case is, while the 600D Kevlar weave and smooth curved edges make it really comfortable to hold. I love that you're getting protection without the bulk. But if you want something a bit more rugged, or you're a bit of a dropper, the Armor Pro and Aurora models offer even more protection. You get a reinforced lens frame, independent metal buttons, and a camera control button, along with the same MagSafe compatibility. And I was really surprised at how stylish these cases look for full protection cases. And beyond cases, Benks has some seriously impressive accessories, like the Armor Go magnetic wallet, great for storing your payment and travel cards, and the Armor Pop grip and stand, a smart and stylish way to prop up your phone. If you want to pick up a case for yourself at the best possible price, check out the links in the description, and thanks again to Benks for sponsoring today's video. This tip is great if you want the steadiest photo that you can possibly get. Your iPhone already does a brilliant job with image stability, but if you want to squeeze out every bit of stability, try this. Open the camera app and in the regular photo mode, swipe up to open the menu. Tap the timer button and you'll get a 3-second timer by default. You can keep tapping it to switch to 5 or 10 seconds if you like, but 3 seconds is usually enough for what we're trying to do. Tap to close the menu, then frame your photo. Hold the phone as steady as you can. You might want to brace your arms or tuck your elbows in, anything that gives you a firmer hold. When you're ready, tap the shutter button. As soon as the countdown begins, keep as still as possible. This works because it separates the moment that you tap the shutter button from the moment that the photo is actually taken. Those few seconds give you time to settle, which helps reduce any shake. It's not going to transform every photo, but if you care about getting the most stable shot that you can, it is definitely worth a try. This next one is really simple, but you'd be surprised how many people don't do it. Shoot at the highest resolution available on your iPhone. To check this, go into Settings, scroll down and tap Camera, then tap Format. In here, you'll see all the options that are available on your particular model. If you're using a recent iPhone Pro, you'll probably see some fairly advanced options. For example, on my iPhone 17 Pro, I can enable Pro RAW and resolution control if I want to, then tap into Pro RAW format and choose from a few different versions of Pro RAW. JPEG lossless is the most compatible, although it produces the biggest file sizes. At the other end, you've got JPEG XL lossy, which gives you smaller files, but may not be quite as compatible. If you like shooting in RAW, it is worth having a play with these to see which one suits you best. If you tap back, you can choose between high efficiency and most compatible. I usually go with high efficiency because it captures photos in the HEIF format, which keeps file sizes down. If you care more about image quality than anything else, you might prefer most compatible, which always shoots in JPEG. And if you tap into photo capture, I would recommend choosing the highest megapixel count available on your device. It gives you the most detail that your iPhone can offer. This tip isn't exactly exciting, but it's one of those quality of life settings that, if you don't already know about it, you'll wish you did. It can make a huge difference to how your camera behaves. Go into Settings, then Camera, then tap Preserve Settings. This whole page lets you choose which camera settings should be remembered the next time that you open the camera app. A practical example is right at the bottom with Live Photo. If you turn this off, your iPhone will always default to whatever its standard live photo setting is when you open the camera. A lot of people don't like live photos, so they switch it off. But unless you toggle the option in Preserve Settings, your phone won't remember that choice. It will switch live photo back on every time. Enabling it here means that the camera will remember your preference even after you've closed the app. It's worth scrolling through the list and turning this on for any settings that you want your iPhone to keep between sessions. Everyone's preferences will be slightly different, but these are the ones that I tend to use. I enable it for camera mode, photographic style, creative controls, depth control, and macro control. I leave it off for exposure adjustment and night mode. I enable it for portrait zoom, leave it off for action mode, and then I enable it for Pro RAW, Apple ProRes, and Live Photo. Another setting that isn't exactly exciting, but that you really should know about if you want to capture decent photos on your iPhone, sits in the composition section. Go into Settings, then Camera, then scroll down and make sure Grid, Level, and View outside the frame are all enabled. Grid puts a rule of thirds overlay on your camera. If you're not familiar with the rule of thirds, It's all about placing subjects along the third's lines to create more interesting compositions. I'm not going to go into detail here because it is quite a big topic and more of a general photography principle, but it's worth learning about, and this grid will help you apply it. The level tool is exactly what it sounds like. It helps you keep your iPhone level when you take a photo. When you turn it on, you'll see 3 lines appear in the middle of the screen. There's a line on the left, a line on the right, and a moving line in the center. The idea is simple. Line them up so they sit together and your shot is level. It also works overhead. If you're taking a photo of something on a table, for example, you'll see 2 crosshairs, one yellow and one white. When you line those up, your photo is perfectly level and taken from a true top-down angle. The last option is view outside the frame. When this is enabled, you can see a little beyond your current frame. It's handy if someone is about to walk into the shot, or if moving slightly to the side would bring something more interesting into your view. This next tip is all about the flash on your iPhone, and in general, I'd say avoid using it wherever possible. The flash definitely has its place in photography, but the one on the iPhone is pretty harsh and usually doesn't give you very flattering results in low light. A much better option is to use night mode instead. You can switch this on by tapping the menu button in the camera app and enabling night mode. Then when you're ready to take a photo in the dark, just tap the shutter and hold your phone as still as you can. The image stabilization on the iPhone is excellent. It knows that you probably won't be using a tripod, but you'll still get the best results if you brace the phone somewhere or hold it as steady as possible. You'll see the screen fade towards black while it works. That's the camera letting you know that it's capturing a long exposure. Once it's done, head into the Photos app to see the result. In almost every situation, you will get a much better photo using night mode than you will with the flash. This next tip is another feature that's been on the iPhone for years, but I reckon most people don't know about it and therefore never use it, and that's burst photography. Before you try it, there is a setting that I think you should switch on. Go into Settings, scroll down to Camera, then scroll a little further and enable Use Volume Up for burst. You'll see why in a moment. There are 2 ways to capture a burst photo. You can long press the volume up button thanks to the setting that we just enabled, or you can press the shutter button and slide it to the left while holding it. When you do that, you'll see a counter appear, which is your iPhone telling you how many photos it's capturing in the burst. The volume up option is really useful because sliding the shutter works great when you're holding the phone in portrait mode, but as soon as you switch to landscape, the volume button is so much easier to use. Once you've taken a burst, open the Photos app and tap the image that you just shot. In the top left, you'll see the word burst with the number of photos captured. Tap it, then swipe down to browse through all the frames. Your aim here is simple. Pick the ones that you want to keep. When you find one that you like, tap the little circle in the bottom right corner. You can select as many as you like, then press the blue tick in the top right and choose whether you want to keep everything or keep only your selected favorites. I would usually go for the second option. Your selected shots will then appear as individual photos. It is hopefully obvious why this is useful. If you're trying to capture something that moves quickly, like a sports game, motor racing, your children, or your pets, burst photography is a brilliant way to get the perfect moment. In general, exposure isn't something you need to worry about when you're taking photos on your iPhone because the whole point is that it handles all of that for you. That said, iPhones do tend to overexpose photos quite a bit, meaning that they make them brighter than they need to be. That's usually fine, but if you want to get a bit more creative with your shots, you might want to take manual control over the exposure. There is a new way to do that in the Camera app in iOS 26. When you're in photo mode, swipe up to open the menu and tap the exposure button. You'll see a simple slider appear. If you're holding the photo in portrait mode, it will sit at the bottom of the screen. If you're holding it in landscape, it'll now move to the side. You can slide up or down to increase or decrease the exposure, then take your photo as normal. It's a small change, but it can have a really meaningful impact on the kind of photos that you're able to capture. Give it a try. Another useful tip is to learn your lenses, especially if you're using a Pro iPhone, which these days come packed with several different options. The lenses show at the bottom of the composition when you're holding the phone in portrait and on the right when you're in landscape. 1x is your typical wide-angle lens. On the iPhone 17 Pro, that's a 24mm equivalent. You can tap 0.5 to switch to the ultra-wide lens, and you'll see the frame suddenly expand. If the regular lens is a 24mm equivalent, This one is closer to a 16mm equivalent or even wider. It creates more of that fisheye style effect, which is perfect for landscapes, but it can also give you some really creative results when you use it close to a subject. If you jump back to the regular wide lens, you can tap the 1x button multiple times to cycle between different focal lengths. 24mm is the default, but you can also switch to 28 and 35. The iPhone does this by cropping slightly into the image. It isn't enough to hurt quality, but it can help you frame a shot more precisely. You've then got 2x, which is a 2x zoom over the wide lens, and the same idea applies to 4x and 8x. Modern iPhone Pros, especially the iPhone 17 Pro, have a very capable telephoto system built in, so these longer focal lengths can look really impressive. Each lens is going to suit a different type of shot, so it's worth playing around with all of them and getting a feel for what they do. As a general rule, ultra-wide is great for landscapes, and the other lenses are perfect for experimenting with everything else. Make use of macro mode. Macro photography is extreme close-up photography, and it's often used for things like plants or insects. But because of what it does, you can use it to get creative shots of almost anything. When you start looking at everyday objects in microscopic detail, you'll be surprised at how many interesting photos you can get. There is one setting that I would recommend switching on before you start. Go into Settings, then Camera, and scroll down until you see Macro Control. I would personally enable this. If you leave it off, your iPhone will switch into macro automatically based on how close you are to something. I prefer having manual control so I can decide when it turns on, but it's entirely your choice. Once that's set, open the camera app in photo mode and bring the phone right up close to whatever you want to capture. You can get incredibly close with a huge amount of detail thanks to the iPhone's macro capability. Try different textures, different angles, and different lighting. It's a really fun way to get creative with your shots, so it's definitely worth experimenting with. This tip is definitely the least technical, but I'm including it because if you get this wrong, it can ruin more shots than anything else that we've talked about. Clean your lenses. Your iPhone is a phone first and a camera second, which means it lives in your pocket or your bag and goes everywhere with you. Because of that, the lenses on the back are going to get dirty from time to time, whether that's from fingerprints, grease, hand lotion, or anything else it might pick up during the day. So if you're about to take some photos, it's always worth taking a moment to clean the lenses with a good cloth, ideally a microfiber one. There's also a setting that was added in iOS 26 that can help. Go into Settings, then Camera, and scroll right to the bottom. You'll see an option called Lens Cleaning Hints. If you enable it, your iPhone will try to work out when your lenses need cleaning and prompt you to wipe them. It's definitely worth switching on because, like I said at the start, if you get this wrong, you're way more likely to ruin your photos than with any other setting. So there you go, you've now got all the information you need to start taking the best photos possible with your iPhone camera. What about you? Any photography tips you want to share? Drop me a comment and let me know. And don't forget, if you want to receive an iPhone tip in your inbox every day for free, join the Daily Swipe. You can either scan the QR code on screen or sign up via the link in the description of this video. And as ever, if you found this video useful, do please consider leaving me a like and subscribing to my channel for more content like this in the future. See you on the next video.